Good morning. It's 10:30. It's time to call the June 23rd, 2010 meeting of the Oklahoma City Airport Trust to order. First order of business is to approve the minutes of May 26, 2010. Motion is second. Please cast your votes. And it passes. Next on the agenda is the Director's Report. Director Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. I do have a couple of comments regarding the passenger activity at Will Rogers this summer. Actually, last month I mentioned that summer travel had already hit. We've been quite busy. The boarding passenger numbers for April were 7.5% higher than the April last year, and May boarding passenger numbers were 6.5% higher than May last year. So we have definitely got a bump in travel going on this year. This is something that's different from the previous 2 years when we went through a downturn since the airline capacity cutbacks started in March of 2008 as a result of the high fuel prices. So I think this is very good news, not just for the airport, but for Oklahoma City. It looks like there's some confidence out there and people are traveling more. That's my comment this morning.
Thank you, Mark. Next on the agenda is the budget presentation, and that's also you.
Yes, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to present the proposed Oklahoma City Airport Trust budget for fiscal year 2011, and we have a short presentation for all of you this morning before we approve the budget. And it appears that we're now ready. Thank you. One thing you'll notice, the proposed FY 10-11 budget is a little bit higher than the operating budget of last year by about $4 million. This is primarily increases from the public parking revenues of about $1.9 million. And then also the proposed customer facility charge, which is commonly known as the CFC. We've talked about as we've discussed the future consolidated rental car facility at Will Rogers. We're anticipating revenues of $1.5 million. So this year's proposed budget will be a total of $110,949,000, and that combines the operating and the capital budget, which is $55,579,000, a very intensive capital budget, and you can see that we did a similar budget last year. Each year we spend probably between $45 and $55 million on our capital budget, so we do a lot of construction and maintenance projects out at the Department of Airports. Our sources of funds are in major categories. The largest component of our source funds would be building rents. This is comprised of building rentals for lease payments for facilities such as the terminal and cargo buildings, the Federal Transfer Center, and other buildings and hangars on all 3 of the city airports. Landing fees, a little over $6.3 million. Our landing fees are charged to the passenger air carrier and freight carriers. We currently have charges of $2.56 per 1,000 pounds of landed weight, and that's based on the activity of the airfield and also the landing weight of the aircraft and our airfield cost that's rolled into those charges. Parking, this is our public parking revenues. We'll be receiving a little over $8.4 million this next year. Concessions, a little over $5.7 million. Concessions represent our food and beverage and retail concessions in the terminal building, and also encompass the commissions we receive from the rental car companies for having their operations in the terminal building. Fuel sales, a little over $1.4 million. This is a result of fuel flowage fees. The airport collects 8 cents per gallon of all fuel on the airport that is either sold via retail or from those tenants who have self-fueling privileges. Other airport charges, these are charges that we assess on our tenants for maintenance reimbursements, ground rentals, and apron fees, and total charges in this category for these items, $54,214,000. We have other source funds also that we consider. Our oil and gas revenues, a little over $2.6 million. This is for the 50-some-odd oil and gas wells that we have on Will Rogers World Airport and a couple of wells out at Wiley Post Airport. Interest on investments, $774,000. This is still a declining number because of the market that we're all accustomed to. Passenger facility charges, commonly known as PFCs, a little over $7.3 million. PFCs are very important to the airport as these charges supplement the funding for the airport's capital program at Will Rogers World Airport. The customer facility charges that I mentioned before of about $1.5 million. This will be a new category for us going forward. And then federal and state grants, a little over $21 million. This includes some grants not just from the FAA that we're accustomed to on an annual basis, but also some of the stimulus grants that we still have in progress from the stimulus projects, as well as we have received a Transportation Security Administration grant and also some reimbursable agreements that we are dealing with TSA on. We have carryover also included in our source funds. This is primarily the Mike Monroney Aeronautical Center escrow accounts, and we also have prior year revenues that we usually use every year from the previous year to support our capital program, and then we have revenue bond proceeds. So on the total source of funds, with the carryover, the revenue bond proceeds, and projected revenues total of $87,774,153, that will comprise the total trust budget source of funds of $110,949,000. Going to the expenditure side, on uses of funds, you'll see contractual services and fees, a little over $9.6 million. This includes our parking management contract, which is $1.8 million, our janitorial service in the terminal and Wiley Post Airport for $900,000, our aircraft rescue and firefighting, about $2 million, supplemental security program, $430,000. We have debt service because we have a lot of bond series that we're financing debt on for projects such as the terminal renovation we completed in 2006, a little over $26,600,000. The airport's cash fund, which I'll talk a little bit about later, is $14,969,000, and then miscellaneous commodities for a expenditure total of a little over $52 million. The reserves, this is where we talk about the PFCs of about $1.3 million and the CFC that I mentioned before, $3.3 million. And then we have our capital outlay, which I will go into detail a little bit later. So the total uses of funds, $110,949,000. That will balance out the budget for the year. I want to talk about the completed projects that we had at Will Rogers World Airport. We had a very busy year, and we will have a busy year coming up. The reconstruction of Taxiway K and Taxiways F and G east of Taxiway K was an FAA project, a little over $3.2 million. The PAPI, or PIPI, it's called PAPI. It stands for Precision Approach Path Indicator. It's a visual approach guidance system for our crosswind runway 13 and 31. We also did a perimeter road. That was also an FAA project. And, of course, this last year we just completed the new 5-story parking garage. That was almost $23 million, so a very significant portion of our capital project this year. General Aviation Terminal was significant for the AAR operation. And, of course, the land development strategy was very big also that I'll talk about later. Replaced the canopies in the West Shuttle parking lot and completed a couple of master plans. Of course, we can't go without some pictures of these projects, and in the red you see there's the taxiway project that we reconditioned and also re-strengthened some taxiways. I want to mention that when we do taxiway and runway construction work at Will Rogers, we take the opportunity to design our pavements to the next higher design group so that we can accommodate larger aircraft in the future. Next, we have a picture of the PAPIs, which is a 4-box PAPI. This will aid the pilots as they make visual approaches to runway 13 and 31. The 5-story parking garage included a picture here. Very excited about that, and a very needed capacity issue for us on the parking front. The General Aviation Terminal, jointly funded project with AAR. This is an important project for us because it actually gives us a great first impression now for the corporate community that flies into Will Rogers. Excuse me again. The land development strategy, we have talked about this before, mixed-use aviation and non-aviation use development. Non-aviation use will include retail, commercial, and industrial development. The goal is to provide a long-term revenue source for the trust, but also to create jobs and sales tax for the city. So very important project. Picture of the canopies in the West Shuttle parking lot. And now we'll talk about some completed projects for general aviation. Wiley Post Airport also had a good year. The infrastructure and taxi lane development was a little over $1.8 million. This is the development we did north side of Wiley Post. And the reason we did this was because we were out of development land on the airport, so we had to create some more lots that were available. The airfield lighting control project, $422,000, and a couple of other minor airfield improvements related to our ILS at Wiley Post. And then Clarence C. Page Airport, we had some projects out there as well. This is a picture of the infrastructure and taxi lane development project. What you see in red is what we completed. Very significant. It will give us lease lots for executive and corporate hangars. We provided, water and wastewater. Also built some taxi lanes and did some fencing and also some roadway work. The airfield lighting control system, we put this in at Wiley Post Airport. Our old system was over 30 years old, and it was very outdated, and we had lots of outages, and that's not what you want with random lights going out on your airfield when aircraft are trying to fly at night. So we completed this project to update that system. I mentioned the lighted hull signs and also the distance remaining signs. Both of those projects were necessary in preparation for the ILS project that we're going to be constructing this next year for runway 35 right at Wiley Post. For Page Airport, a picture of the white taxiway there that you see where we reconstructed taxiway A4. And then we move on to Mike Monroney Aeronautical Center. We completed almost $3 million worth of projects for Mike Monroney. And one of those was replacing all the windows in the headquarters building. Next, we replaced the door controls, the operating controls for hangars 8 and 9. And now I want to move on to the capital program for fiscal year 2011. Very significant, a lot of projects. What's huge is the renovation of our 5- and 2-story parking garages. They have not been renovated in probably 30 years, and so this is a big project for us. Also want to mention the consolidated rental car facility. We'll be starting design work on that. We'll be resurfacing 8 lane miles of airport roads, Terminal Drive, and Old Meridian overlay included in that. We'll have some equipment we'll be buying, CCTV cameras, as well as some snow blowers for field maintenance, and the checked baggage inspection system, which is our TSA project, which I'll talk about later. The consolidated rental car facility. If you remember, this is the rendering that we had when we did the parking study, and this was the preferred alternative for a future facility to deal with the ready cars that we're deficient on. We have currently capacity of 400. We need 650 for today's market. This facility will allow us to grow into the future. The realignment of Portland Avenue. This is going to be a significant spine road for the East Side Land Development Strategy. The relocation of Portland on this picture, if you see Oklahoma City Community College and Interstate 44 just to the top of that, the red area is the non-aviation use area for our commercial and industrial development, and just north of that will be the New Portland relocation. It will be a through street from 54th all the way to Southwest 104th. The checked baggage inspection system, this is a huge project for us. It's going to be about a $20 million project. We have a single feed system coming down from the ticket counters, and what we want to do is have a TSA standard redundant capacity system, which will go into a couple of different matrices with different TSA L3 screening machines. This will increase our baggage delivery handling at the airport, and also get us a system which is in standard with TSA, and gives us some redundancy. Right now we have systems where if a bag belt goes down, then those bags that are on that particular airline have to be carted over to another bag belt and fed into a different TSA screening machine. It's not efficient at all. The new closed-circuit television camera system. This is a TSA 100% reimbursable project. This will be a project where we go from about 78 cameras to about 278 cameras. So we're going to get a lot more efficiency in our screening, and this is a big tool for our airport police and our security people. For our ongoing projects for general aviation, I mentioned the ILS for runway 35 right. We'll be starting that project, waiting on that for several years, eager to get on with that. Reconstruct some taxiways to install some medium-intensity taxiway lighting, and also some minor taxiway improvements and constructed a fuel storage facility at Clarence E. Page Airport. A picture of a component of the ILS system for runway 35 right, and what you see in the square picture is a light stanchion. There'll be many of these, and in the circle, we'll be putting a couple of those in that circle as well as many others. For Mike Monroney, we have several ongoing projects and new projects, some roof replacements. We maintain about 1.5 million square feet of roofs at Mike Monroney, as well as doing some pavement work. We maintain about 70 acres of parking lots at Mike Monroney, and other major mechanical, heat and air, and building improvements for a little over $22,600,000. The summary for the ongoing projects, we break them out by airport here, and you can see that for the FAA Airport Improvement Program, TSA grants and stimulus projects, a little over $20,800,000. Revenue bonds, a little over $4.4 million. Tenant maintenance funds, almost $22 million. And then the trust contributions, a little over $8.4 million. And that's our capital program for the next year, $55,579,000. The airport's cash fund I mentioned before. This is a separate fund that we use to fund the airport operations. Includes the airport salaries and benefits and other supplies for our airport operations, and we have divided this category out by programs under our Leading for Results initiative, a total of $14,969,000. A couple of changes that we have in this year's cash fund. We have the increase in merit salary and insurance, primarily from merit increases for existing positions. And then the city also has services that we use, and we have an increase in those services, so a total of $366,000. And thankfully, that is the end of my budget presentation.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions or comments from the trustees?
I got a lot of them, but I don't want to talk.
I can handle it. Go ahead.
We have a recommendation to approve in a second. Any further discussion? Cast your votes, and it is approved. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Sorry for the voice there.
We did not spend enough time offline here for you because now it's your turn to talk about Will Rogers World Airport.
Luckily, it's a very light agenda. Under Will Rogers, we are asking for approval for item A, which is approving an oil and gas division order for Marathon Oil. This sets forth the Airport Trust interest in an East Wheatland Unit number 27 well. Item B is to amend the Protect Fire Services annual budget for this budget year, adding $50,000. Item C is to approve easements for the Oklahoma Gas and Electric Company to install a couple of electrical services to the FAA Air Traffic Control Tower. Item D is to approve a consent of leasehold mortgage and approval of the lender. This is for Atlantic Aviation, which is doing the FBO on the east side of Will Rogers World Airport and MidFirst Bank. This is an agreement between the Trust and Atlantic. Item E, approve amendment number 2, adding $34,844 for additional services for the agreement we have with Frankfurt Short Bruza for the terminal expansion project. Item F is accepting the quitclaim deed for certain parcels in the ZNAN 3 addition. And item G is to approve the request for proposals for the Air Service Development Program, authorizing proposals to be received July 20, 2010.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions from the trustees? We have a motion and a second for item 5. Please cast your votes, and it passes. Wiley Post.
The only item under Wiley Post is to approve an easement with OG&E for electric service. This is associated with the taxiway A8 Northeast Development Area project at Wiley Post Airport.
We have a motion and a second for item 6. Please cast your votes, and it's approved. Roman number 7, General.
Thank you. Request approval for item A to receive the delinquent accounts receivable report. I might make note that this is only a delinquent receivable report that shows a delinquency of $2,620. The construction project status report as of June 23rd, and the budget to actual report as of May 31, 2010. Item B is to approve an audit contract with BKD to perform the 2009-2010 annual audit of the Trust Fiscal Affairs for $39,851. Item C is accept staff recommendations for bids opened on April 20th for the annual utility repairs and maintenance contract. Award the contract to Cactus Construction for $200,000 or for 1 year. Item D, approve addendas number 1 and 2 and award the annual electrical and street lighting repairs maintenance contract to Asset Group for $200,000 or 1 year. Item E is to adopt a joint resolution with the City of Oklahoma City to submit some grant applications for the FAA Airport Improvement Program. This is for grants that we anticipate receiving from the FAA for Will Rogers and Wiley Post Airport. Item F, authorize Schindler Elevator Corporation under a city contract to perform maintenance for our elevators, escalators, and moving walkways for $114,308.
Thank you, Mark. Questions from the trustees? We have a motion and a second for item 7. Please cast your votes, and it passes. Item 8, lease agreements.
Request approval for item A to approve the lease agreement, supplement number 8 with Sungyo Kim for the operation of the restaurant at Wiley Post Airport in the terminal building for 5 years. Item B, approve supplement agreement number 1 for the hangar office lease agreement and also the fuel storage facilities agreement, including B&B Aircraft LLC as a joint lessee for Wiley Post. Item C, approve an assignment and assumption agreement with SAM Aviation, Haynes Capital Group, Interstate Helicopters, United Petroleum Transports, Radio Flyer, B&B Aircraft, and this is assigning the lease interest of United Petroleum Transports to Citation Aviation at Wiley Post. And last, approve a ground services agreement with Simply Wheels, LLC, doing business as Advantage Rent-A-Car for a courtesy shuttle operation for its off-airport car operation. That's all the leases.
Thank you, Mark. The motion is second for lease agreements. Please cast your votes, and it passes. Next up, item 9, adopt a requisition resolution dated June 23rd, 2010, as listed here under Section 9. Any comments, Mark?
No, I do not, sir.
Okay. The motion is second to item 9. Please cast your votes, and it passes. Item 10, comments from trustees.
I do have one.
Yes, sir.
At the risk of losing my voice further, and I apologize for that. I do want to acknowledge one person in the audience today, Cheryl Pierce, who's here to support me with the trust presentation, who's retiring tomorrow. Cheryl has had 27 years with the city, 22 with the Department of Airports, and has just done an outstanding job for actually 3 airport directors through her tenure at the airport. And I just want to tell her that I've enjoyed my friendship with her for all these years, even before I left for California and then came back. And she has been a huge contributor and is a big reason why the Airport Trust is in as good a shape as it is today. So thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Cheryl.
Yes, ma'am. Come on up if you want to say something. Certainly do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all, sir.
Any comments from staff? Any citizens who wish to be heard? Seeing none, we are adjourned.